All right, I will start recording.
I'll do the same.
I'm good to go over here.
All right. I think I'm good as well. Let me just make sure we're live real quick. We're live. All right, let's do this.
Welcome to the Fifth and Goal Sports Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Aaron, Josh, and Johnny.
Welcome to the show. Listeners, viewers, chat. It's good to be back. Johnny is also back from the dead. Johnny, welcome.
Thank you. The Bears did not kill me.
That's good.
The Wolves tried their best. And the Moose were excellent. So, they're very friendly, very nice in sharing their woods with me.
I love that. Well, good. Josh is not here. He's off this week. So we'll have to pronounce him dead, I guess, as we do, but he'll be back next week. He did give us some Big Ten thoughts from the grave. We'll get into that. I think my overarching statement for how I'm doing this week is that if I need fall, and I need it now. Like, we can skip through. I don't need the month of my birthday's in August. We don't need it. My birthday or the month. Just skip it all. I'm over it.
Yeah.
I literally came in directly from mowing.
We want the end of the month.
I feel just gross. Ugh.
We want the very end. Very end of the month.
That's true.
Okay.
We don't want to skip week 0, week 1.
No.
Yeah. We are only like 3.5 weeks away from college football, and we're only a few days away from a random, meaningless NFL game. But hey, you know what? It's something. So I'll take it. We'll get into that. But yeah, I guess we can roll right into it because, as mentioned last week, we're rolling through conference previews as we get closer to week 0. And this week we're talking about the Big Ten, which of course is near and dear to our hearts. We live in Big Ten country. We've been brought up in Big Ten country. It's the only way to live. So we're going to break it down. So we have some headlines. We've got some dark horse candidates, which I think each week we get worse at picking dark horse candidates. We'll talk about that in a minute. Because if you missed it last week, we all thought we were picking dark horse candidates in the Big 12. Turns out they were all the favorites to win it, at least by Vegas odds. So we're real good
Favorite,
at this.
the Big 12, there are no favorites.
That's true. And they're all dark horses.
There are no. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, Johnny, conference headlines. There's a lot to unpack. You also had 4 college football playoff teams make it to the playoff last year. So the overall strength of this conference was good. The team that got in and everyone, and by everyone I mean a couple of specific people on the desk of College Game Day, kind of poo-pooed Indiana being there. And when the dust settled, Indiana's 2 losses were to Ohio State and Notre Dame. So I think it's another year where you're talking about the strength of the conference too, but what are just some overall conference headlines that you're looking at this year?
Yeah, we got 4 in last year. I think the expectation should always be, and I would say the same for the SEC as well. 3 is kind of the baseline. 4 would be considered a really good year. 5 means some anarchy happens somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think under this 12-team playoff, like, we're really talking about 4 is really your max. 3 should always be the expectation for the Big Ten and the SEC, though. But there's a lot of headlines, as we talked about. First off, aforementioned by you, Aaron, who is this year's Indiana? If there is a team kind of coming out of nowhere, it was Curt Cignetti's first season, just to remind everybody. They came absolutely out of nowhere. He brought a lot of transfers over from James Madison with him, and they popped. Now, they had a quote-unquote easy schedule other than that trip to Ohio State in the regular season. So with these major conferences, schedules are not created equal, right? So we're not even saying sometimes that we think this is one of the 12 best teams, but who has the path to be an Indiana this year in the Big Ten?
Yeah. And we're going to talk about some teams that might fit that category here in a bit. My question is, and again, it's hard to give away, or it's hard to not give away things in talking about these headlines, but what's Penn State going to do? Because it feels like a now or never kind of season, in the sense that they can win 10 games, go 10-2 with a first round exit, and everyone will just say, well, good season, Penn State, kind of same old, same old. James Franklin probably lost to Ohio State, and then he probably lost to Oregon at home in a night game when the Penn State wideout didn't get the job done. That would just be kind of a ho-hum season, and now most teams would kill for that. But that's where Penn State's kind of been stuck. Can they get over that hump this year? Because, like I said, those are the two biggest games in terms of the regular season. You've got a road trip to Ohio State, and you host Oregon. I believe that's the last week of September, or maybe the week before that. Can you do it? Can Drew Aller play well enough? I think there's a lot of people out there that look at Drew Aller and say he's just not the quarterback. He's not going to be able to get it done. I look at that roster, and I say I don't think he has to be great. He could basically play as well as he did last year, and I think Penn State can win the whole thing if everything goes well. Now, he needs to make better decisions down the stretch. We saw what happened in the Notre Dame game. And the coaching staff needs to trust him a little bit more than they have in the past, where they've been super, super conservative in some of those big games and basically tried to force his hand to not make mistakes. But I think the Penn State conversation is one of the most fascinating things, and off the heels of back-to-back national champions coming from this conference.
Yeah, no, Penn State's what you said, Aaron. It's one of the biggest talking points coming into the season. And if you swap names with Penn State and Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, they would be consensus number one team coming into this season. Yeah. But because of James Franklin and because of the question marks that we have, not whether they can be good or not, whether they can take that next step, that's why we're coming into this season not knowing who the top team is in the country. And so it'll be fascinating. I expect a very split vote when it comes to the top five, when we get that first preseason poll. Yeah. It will be a wild looking poll. I'm going to be fascinated by it because we haven't had a year without kind of a assumed favorite in a long time. So that'll be interesting. Following up on presumed favorites, talking about the national champion and the Big Ten champion, Ohio State and Oregon had massive departures through the NFL draft. Oregon is retooling that entire offensive line, brand new quarterback. You know, you're no longer bringing in 24-year-old transfer quarterback to play for you. What does that look like? Is Dan Lanning the type of coach that can develop at the quarterback position? I believe so, but that's a little bit of a question mark just because we haven't seen it yet. Ohio State. Oregon also, by the way, has major questions at wide receiver. Yeah. Major questions at wide receiver. So that offense is big question mark. I believe that defense will stay solid with Dan Lanning. Ohio State, you know all the departures. You know, they are losing massively all over the place. However, they were able to keep their entire center part of the offensive line. They still are going to be elite at wide receiver. They do bring back Sonny Styles. They do bring back Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Smith, of course. So, of course, at Ohio State and in Columbus, there's all this immense talent still. But will those other ancillary pieces that I mentioned have departed be able to fill the roles to make this team elite? Biggest one will be the quarterback position. And that's the question throughout a lot of the Big Ten is the quarterback, and even the country. Lots of quarterbacks gone. New quarterback at Michigan, new quarterback at Oregon, new quarterback at Ohio State. Another reason why we're going to talk about Penn State and Drew Aller later, because they are one of the best teams who have a returning quarterback. So that's what we're going to see and talk about later on.
And I do think the quarterback position as a whole is just another storyline I'm following. Because you look around in other conferences, like the ACC, for example, you got Cade Klubnik there. I think a Heisman contender has to be. If Clemson is as good as we think they are going to be, he's a Heisman contender. Carson Beck is there. You've got Kevin Jennings from SMU. You've got, I'm missing a bunch of people here, but you got Haynes King, Georgia Tech. I mean, you got a lot of people that, even Kyron Drones from Virginia Tech, if he's more like his freshman self, like there's really good quarterback play, and there's names you know. We don't really have that as much here in the Big Ten. Like, of course, Drew Aller. Julian Sayin will be a name, probably. We assume that he'll just pick up the offense and they'll just move their merry way along and nothing crazy is going to happen there. And you've got Dante Moore, but even Dante Moore didn't play last year. So, because he was at Oregon sitting behind Dylan Gabriel. And then you look over at Michigan, and Michigan's got Bryce Underwood. And we're not necessarily sure if he's going to start day one. I think at some point that Michigan-New Mexico game will get out of hand. So I do think you'll see Bryce Underwood at some point in week one. But Michigan plays at Oklahoma week 2. So they're going to have to figure out their quarterback stuff in a hurry. You look around the league like Indiana, no Curtis Rourke anymore. So there's going to be names that emerge in all of these different places. But there's a lot of unknown. And I think because there's that much unknown at that position, it gets a little fuzzy. I think we know which teams are in the first tier, but I think it gets a little fuzzy who's in that second tier. Like, is USC in that second tier? Personally, I think yes, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Is Washington really in that second tier? And by second tier, I mean you're probably not actually going to win the Big Ten, but on any given night, you could beat one of the top teams. Like Washington hosts Ohio State on September 27th. Like, can they be good enough that they win that game? Illinois, same thing. We've talked about them before. You can even throw a Nebraska in that conversation, maybe even a Minnesota, because they actually have a quarterback coming back who played last year. So I think that position in particular, when you look around at all the other big, power conferences, I don't think there's that much unknown at the quarterback position. Like even in the Big 12, you've got Sam Leavitt back with Arizona State. You've got some pieces. So that's one thing I'm also fascinated by.
Yeah.
Which leads us into some of those dark horse teams. Who is in that second tier of the Big Ten? So we did say that Josh gave his Big Ten picks from the grave. And unfortunately, he's not here to defend himself. Because
he's wrong, though.
He's wrong because he said his dark horse is Penn State. Johnny, Penn State might be my number one preseason team. I'm still working it out in my head. They might be my number one team to start the year. Now, I'll give him this. James Franklin has not been able to win, and I put this in air quotes because, yes, he did win 2 playoff games last year, but he has not been able to win that big game. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, maybe they're a dark horse, but no, they're just straight up one of the contenders.
I agree. Sorry, Josh. Well, maybe we'll give you a moment to defend yourself next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dark horse, which of course me and Aaron somehow on the same wavelength as always. I promise we really don't talk about this beforehand.
No.
And honestly, this is breaking my own rule with Nebraska because I had this rule with Texas of I'm not buying until you actually give me something that I should believe in. And Nebraska, has been ranked preseason, even in the AP poll, because they're like, oh, they're going to be better this year. And it's just based off assumptions. There's no evidence at all. It's Matt Rule's 3rd year. It's Dylan Raiola's 2nd year.
Yep.
It's Dana Holgerson's job now at OC. It seemed like that helped Raiola late in the season. I think he probably fits better as his OC. Nebraska did lose a lot on defense. However, what did we talk about with Indiana? It's not just about your team. Of course, you have to be good to win games. It's a tough conference. But it's also how your schedule lines up, who you have to play and who you don't. Who you don't have to play is honestly the most important thing. But let's just talk about the early season for Nebraska. They play at Arrowhead against Cincinnati. They should beat Cincinnati. I know it's a quality opponent. Cincinnati's bad. Then they get Akron, Houston, Christian. Okay, so I know it's Nebraska. They've screwed that up before, but let's say that's good. The next game is home against Michigan. That's the keystone game of Nebraska's season. Michigan should not be settled in yet, especially if it's Underwood at quarterback. And Nebraska gets them at home. That's the keystone game. If they win that game, they are off to the races because it's Michigan State, it's Maryland, it's Minnesota, it's Nebraska next. And then I'll give them to end the season, the last 4 weeks, it's a little tougher. They play USC, but again, at home. At UCLA, should be a win. At Penn State, rough. and then home against Iowa. Again, I'm not saying Nebraska's going to go 11-1 and win the conference or even make the title game, but there's an 8-4 season in here for sure, with the potential for a 9-3 here for Nebraska. Certainly, if they're able to pull off that early win against Michigan, I think they have a great chance to do it. I do believe in Matt Rule. I think he's an organic team builder. It might just be taking longer at Nebraska than we might have originally anticipated, but I see them going really, really far this season, still in the Big Ten title picture.
That was my dark horse team too, because, and I swear to you people, we don't look like, I sat down, I literally came in from mowing the yard, sat down, hit record, looked at the notes, and there, sure enough, we both had Nebraska. So I agree with all of that. That's literally why I think Nebraska can make some noise. And if they are like 7-1, and once they hit that Final Four stretch of games, that's going to be news, because by then the college football playoff poll is out. By then I have unshunned the college football playoff, so we can actually talk about that a little bit. So that's going to be very interesting. And it's because both of us are picking Nebraska that we have doomed them. They're going to lose to Cincinnati, and because you want to hear the list of college
Houston Christian.
Yeah,
they're going to lose to
go
Houston
Huskies. Do you want to know a list of college football teams to go under their Vegas win total every year since 2017? Here's the list. You ready for it? Nebraska. That's it. That's the list. So we've been doing this. We as a collective college football society, we have been doing this forever.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because if you look at the last like 50 years before that point, Nebraska was a powerhouse. Yes, kids, if you're listening, Nebraska was a powerhouse. We have strayed so far that there is a whole generation of young fans that don't know what a good Nebraska team is. I'll throw in there that we've gone long enough that there's a young generation of fans that don't know how good USC once was. You probably have watched some documentaries. A Reggie Bush highlight or two has made it across your TikTok feed. I think in a do or die season, which it is for Lincoln Riley, in my opinion, that he figures things out, relatively speaking, with USC. Now, what do I mean by figure things out? For one, don't lose more games this year than you did last year, because USC has done that for 3 straight seasons. So probably don't do that. I think they feel better
Aaron,
about...
what was it? They led in like all of their losses except, I think, Notre Dame in the fourth quarter.
I believe the stat
correct.
is, and I'll have stats and info, future, whatever, look this up later. I believe the stat is that they led in 5 Big Ten games in the fourth quarter and lost all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That can't happen.
Which, on one hand, I'm like, well, that's just terrible coaching. That is a lack of discipline. That is a lack of execution. Do I really trust a coaching staff and team that turned in that kind of performance? On the other hand, I'm like, you flip half those games and USC, instead of 7-6, whatever they were with the Las Vegas when they had over Texas A&M, that's a 9-3, 10-2 team. And then if you're a 9-3, 10-2 team in the Big Ten, you might be a playoff team. So it's one of the basically Arizona State was obviously a playoff team, won the Big 12. Arizona State went 5-1 in one possession games. USC was basically the antithesis of that. They went essentially 1-5. I mean, I think that's not technically true, but you get my point. Like they lost so many of those kinds of games that really, I mean, let me just walk you through their losses. At Michigan, who at the time was ranked in the top 25, lost by 3. At Minnesota, lost by 7. Penn State, remember, they lost in overtime to Penn State. And Penn State, they had Penn State on the ropes at home. At Maryland, lost by 1. At Washington, lost by 5. And then the Notre Dame game, lost 49-35. I think that's absurd. Now, a lot of that is just a ton of road losses. Like your 2 home losses were to Penn State and Notre Dame, and I don't think I need to tell you how good those
acceptable
teams were. So maybe figure out a way to win a game on the road. And part of that is your travel is insane, and it will be again.
Yeah, Maryland and Minnesota are rough.
Yeah.
That's a rough trip for them.
So maybe year 2 in the Big Ten, not only have you sort of maybe adjusted to some of the teams in the conference, like I absolutely think there was more physicality in the Big Ten than what USC was used to. I think that was a factor. But maybe if you can just get used to the travel a little bit, it's never going to be easy, but if you've at least made some of the growing pains from year 1 of trying to figure out, hey, what's the best way to travel across the country constantly and still perform at a high level? I'd like to think USC will be, and the other teams for that matter, Washington, Oregon, UCLA included, are better set in that category, but we'll see.
Aaron, can I play devil's advocate real quick?
Please do.
Why I don't believe in Lincoln Riley and USC this year. And I actually, listen, Alex Grinch should have never gotten on the plane to go to LA with him,
Right.
which was his first mistake.
Yep.
So he gave up 2 years of his defense. And last year they were worlds better and should continue
by
to
10
get
points
better on
better.
defense.
Yep.
Yeah, like should continue to get better. And that's basically just with a coordinator change. That wasn't like, oh, they got all these transfers in. Like it really was just scheme and coaching. So, and USC is recruiting very, very well futuristically. Right now, they need to get to that 8-win plateau to me this season.
Yeah.
Here's why that's really, really difficult for me to see. After week 4, so first 4 games of the season, really, honestly, they should win them. But then it starts here in late September. They have a trip to Illinois. They're home against Michigan. They're on the road against Notre Dame. And then they're on the road against Notre Dame. Then they're on the road against Nebraska, like all in a row. And that's not including towards the end of the season. They have Iowa and Oregon. But those 4 games in a row, I think, are just, I think they're really tough. And there's some buys in there. So I don't want to be totally misleading there. But those are tough. That's South Bend. That's Lincoln. That's Champaign. If Illinois does what we think they could this year, and that's still very early on in the season, so I imagine Illinois is probably undefeated. That's going to be seen as a ginormous game. That could even be a college game day game. I don't know what other games are going on that day, but Champaign's one of the places I believe they haven't gone to.
That Penn State, Oregon is also that day.
Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah.
But point being,
Yeah.
these are all going to be ginormous games. Notre Dame's not going to take this huge step back. If anything, Michigan should be better this year. Illinois, same, if not better. Nebraska should be better. Oregon, I don't know, but it's in Autzen. You know? So that's I mean, they're lucky they get Iowa at home in November, because can you imagine them having to go to Kinnick in November, like weather-wise and everything? That sounds like a nightmare for them. So while I think USC might be better, and this is something about sports in general, but especially college football, everybody always thinks that they're going to scale up every year, right? Like, oh, like we kept all our coordinators, all of our players have 1 more years of experience. We went 7-5 last year, so maybe we'll go 9-3. Well, you could be better the following season and not have a better record.
Right.
Happens all the time for the reasons Aaron just said with the 1-score games. Sometimes it's literally is the bounce of a ball. And sometimes it's because the other teams around you also improved a lot as well. So I think USC will be a better team this year. I don't know if the record's going to totally reflect that. But I think an 8-4 season for Lincoln Riley, which is probably about what I'd predict here, does keep him on the job for another season. They're not looking to blow this up, especially with the incoming recruiting classes that they have.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I agree with most of that, and I understand where there's scheduled pitfalls. My thought process is that you're going to find something like that on every Big Ten team schedule.
Fair enough.
Here's what I'll say USC does not have. They don't have 3 of the 4 teams that made the college football playoff from the Big Ten. There's no Ohio State, there's no Penn State, there's no Indiana. Now, you can throw that back in my face and say, well, there's Notre Dame again, and it's at Notre Dame, and, well, there's Oregon again, and it's at Oregon. I totally get that, but we'll see. I do think it's very helpful that they have what looks to me like a pretty decent 4-game runway before they go to Illinois, because they are breaking in some new players. Like, it's not just going to be necessary. I mean, it's not going to be quite plug and play, but I trust Lincoln Riley with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
At least that might be the only thing I trust him with. And I think they get better quarterback play, even though Miller Moss, I think, does really good things at Louisville, where he transferred.
Yeah.
That's a whole different conversation, which we sort of had 2 weeks ago. So we'll refer you there. But I didn't list them as a dark horse, but I'm curious what you think, because we talked about this, Josh and I did during our Big 12 preview. The perennial question of, gosh, what would Iowa be like if they had an offense? And we got to see that last year in the sense that Iowa State had a really good quarterback play, really good wide receiver play. And I know we've had transfer quarterbacks before at Iowa, but Iowa's got a quarterback, and I'm looking up the stats right now. Stats and Info is giving me a quarterback from South Dakota State who has 10,000 career yards passing, and that is Mark Gronkowski. To me, that is the highest upside player that they've brought in to the quarterback position in a while. And I know they brought Cade McNamara in there a couple years ago, but at least maybe my take I know was that, oh, well, he's going to go there to die. And I don't necessarily feel the same way about this kid. We'll see.
Right.
But we're talking about, like, it's a minuscule difference. Like, Iowa doesn't need to have a top 25 offense, but they need to get out of the bottom 25. And if they do that, there's double-digit wins available to them every year because of how reliably consistent that defense is. And at the end of the day, they're going to run the ball. They're going to try to chew up as much clock as possible and make it as ugly yet beautiful as they possibly can. But that's a question I have for Iowa, is what kind of quarterback play? Because the schedule, Albany at Iowa State, sure, you've always got that game against Iowa State.
Yeah.
UMass at Rutgers, Indiana. Then you have a bye week at Wisconsin. Like that could be 5-1 right there. I don't know who they lose to, but that could be 5-1, and then things get interesting.
Well, and Aaron, they always win some games that you're like, how?
Yeah, right.
Like, how did they win that game? And I think the difference is, coming from South Dakota State, the weather and wind won't be strange to him. He's an experienced quarterback. You're not pulling in just... A lot of their transfers and incoming guys have been kind of like castaways, you know, like, oh, you don't want him? Sure, we'll take him. This guy's been matured. He's a national champion. I don't care that it's at the FCS level. He's been in big time games. He's played big time college football. You're right. Like, again, we're not really saying college football playoff, but there's absolutely a 10-2, 9-3 here for Iowa if they can figure that out. There's not a lot of gimmies after the early part of their season, but Iowa really doesn't get beaten down badly by anyone, even without an offense. So it's hard to say. Like, they're a team that nobody really likes seeing on their schedule either, and they don't play Ohio State and Michigan. Again, that's always kind of the big, who aren't they playing? They don't play Ohio State, they don't play Michigan, they don't play Illinois. You know, they do have the Iowa State non-conference, but that's an overall win, I think, when it comes to Big Ten scheduling. Yes, you have Penn State and Oregon. You can't have everything.
Right.
And speaking of a team that basically does have everything, you know, we're kind of brushing aside Illinois at this point because me and Aaron were basically saying that they're not even a dark horse at this point, just because everybody is picking Illinois to, you know, have a great season. But just a quick refresher on why that is. We talked about the importance of returning quarterback play. Luke Altmaier's back. He was amazing. Watch that South Carolina game. A lot of people have South Carolina as their dark horse in the SEC. Well, Illinois beat that team, and it was no fluky win. Illinois is a solid team in the trenches. They're not relying on skill position players, but Altmaier is solid, and he can make some big plays with his arms and his legs when needed. They have a relatively soft out of non-conference. It's Western Illinois, it's Western Michigan, and at Duke. Duke should be okay. That's not like horrible Duke, but still, they should win that game. Then they get that Indiana game and they get that USC game. That USC game is kind of that keystone game. If they get by that, they don't play Michigan, they don't play Oregon, they don't play Penn State, and they get Ohio State at home. That's just the biggest. We can kind of even leave it there. And the end of their season is actually remarkably easy. We're talking about all these other teams have these tough finishes. Illinois finishes home against Rutgers, home against Maryland, at Wisconsin, who probably will be in the pit of despair at this point in the season. And then they finish at home against Northwestern. So that middle part of their schedule there for Illinois, if they can find their way through it, and again, you have wiggle room now. You don't have to win every single one of those games. You lose one. I would say with Illinois' schedule, they probably can't lose a second one. But if they lose just one game, they're probably in the playoff and maybe in the Big Ten title game as well. So it's understandable why everybody's picking Illinois like as a big dark horse. We just didn't really pick them because it's almost too obvious.
It does feel too obvious.
Point.
Yep. Yeah, because they're going to be favored in a lot of those games, so it doesn't even feel like you're picking against someone else. You know what I mean? Speaking of the Big Ten title game, we are going to go ahead and pick our champions. Josh has chosen the Ohio State University to repeat, which I could definitely see. I think there's absolutely a path for that to happen. I think it involves the defensive line probably gelling quickly and playing better than I think some people think they will overall. That's probably assuming Julian Sand looks really good. Obviously, he probably will with a lot of those skill position players. That probably means the running back room is really developed. Like CJ Donaldson's probably emerging as a kind of a big name running back for the Buckeyes. So I love that pick, and I hope he's right. I've got Penn State. I alluded to it earlier. I think Penn State may end up being my number one team in the preseason. Stay tuned to our social medias because we're going to have our actual poll, the 5th and goal poll, if you're not familiar. That'll be here before too long. I like the Nittany Lions a lot. Again, my biggest pause is literally just James Franklin. But we were saying that exact same thing about Ryan Day not that long ago, and then he rattled off 4 wins. I'm not saying James Franklin's just automatically going to transform into that kind of coach. What I am saying is just because a guy hasn't done it doesn't mean he's incapable. Now, that being said, if Penn State goes 9-3, 10-2 this year, then I think you can actually make that statement with certainty. Because, look, Drew Aller does not have to be this superhuman quarterback. I think he's going to show improvement. I think he's going to be just fine. But he can be a game manager, and Penn State can win basically every game they play because they've got the best running back room in the country. They are set at pretty much every other position. Wide receiver is probably the biggest question mark. If you remember in that Notre Dame game, the wide receivers just weren't there, or Drew Aller wasn't finding them. They basically didn't exist. That's probably my biggest concern. Johnny, you can add to that because spoiler alert.
We picked the same champion. Of course we did, which means screw you, Penn State.
Let's go,
You're
Buckeyes.
Done.
Yep.
I think Penn State gets it done this year. One, I said this kind of a little bit before. The blueprint Michigan and Ohio State set was draft eligible players deciding to come back for another season. That's Penn State's entire backfield. That's them in the trenches. That's them in the secondary. Yes, I know Abdul Carter left. When you're that high of a draft pick, I think you pretty much always do. However, basically everyone else decided to come back for Penn State. And we talked about Ohio State and Oregon, while they won't be bad, are in a little bit as much of a transition year as those two schools ever have, right? What does a transition look like for those two programs? 10-2 at worst. Yeah. But still, this is the best chance you've got. The only other team that you might say is borderline tier 1 with a returning quarterback is Illinois. Michigan is breaking in a brand new quarterback. That team was atrocious offensively last year. They threw for 12 total touchdowns. 12, he says, as an embarrassed Buckeye fan still. Penn State has everybody coming back. They have no reason. They have Oregon at home. They get the whiteout for that game as well. It's even an evening game, I believe. I'm happy for you Penn State fans that you didn't get big noon. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to not get it done. And then you look at the landscape. Georgia's in a little bit of a transition year as well. Alabama's in a transition year as well. There is not this superpower coming back. So I'm not just talking Big Ten title, although I know that's the pick right now. But more to Aaron's point, there's no reason for it. Now, I think there's a lot more blame that needed to go on Penn State's wide receivers than was given compared to Drew Allar last year. Was Drew missing people at times? Yes. But those wide receivers, you were asking Drew Allar many times to throw into NFL windows because he didn't have a single wide receiver that could get any space. And that's just not how college works. You can talk about that when that comes to his draft prospects, but that we're not talking about that. In the NFL, I mean, in college football, you should be able to create space as a wide receiver. You should be. And they did go into the transfer portal, at least credit to them. They got Pena from Syracuse last year, who's Kyle McCord's favorite target. They tried to fix that as best they could through the transfer portal. I don't understand why they've been so terrible recruiting wide receivers, but they did that. Losing Warren hurts.
Yeah.
But like you said, Aaron, I think one of the keys, though, with Drew Allar is for Kotelnicki to trust him. He can be a game manager, but I'm not telling him to be a game manager. He is his mindset is risk aversion. He actually, I would argue, needs to be more risky with the football. I knew he threw that pick to end that Notre Dame game. I think the wide receiver blew the route.
Yeah.
I actually need him to throw anticipatory balls and to trust his wide receivers. And if his wide receivers screw up, that's fine. It is his second year with Kotelnicki as his coordinator as well. That's usually the pop year with the quarterback and his coordinator. So for all those reasons, and I know Penn State even goes to the Horseshoe, but there's a easily hypothetical situation where they lose that game and still win the Big Ten title. Like, remember, none of these picks mean we think they're running the table, potentially.
Yeah.
But I think that will be a key measuring stick for Penn State. Going into the Horseshoe and being able to beat Ohio State, that would only be the second time in James Franklin's tenure, and the first time, I think, since 2016. So that is going to be their key measuring stick game. In some ways, I think even more than Oregon, because Oregon's at home.
Yep.
So, yeah. But I do have the Nittany Lions. I think there's just that absence of a heavy hitter. But I think if you even replace Penn State and Oregon's names and you said, this is what Oregon has coming back, you'd be like, oh, Oregon's the favorite, right? For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that doubt in James Franklin. And if I'm James Franklin too, trust Kotelnicki. Do not involve yourself in late game decision making, because that has been his, just ask any Penn State fan just they are infuriated with him inserting himself into those situations and making bonehead decisions. Just allow Allar and Kotelnicki to do it. And I think you'll have a very, very successful year. But to your point, Aaron, I think anything short of the college football semifinals and probably a Big Ten title would be a disappointing season in State College.
I totally agree. They've got to check off the same boxes that Ohio State was unable to check off until they got to the playoff. Because Ohio State's boxes, and we can talk about this too, because Josh picked them as his champion, and obviously it's our favorite team. Ohio State's boxes were beat Michigan, big zero there. Win the Big Ten, couldn't because you didn't beat Michigan, and win a national championship. It's going to be the same thing, except just substitute Michigan for beat either Oregon or Ohio State. I don't even think you have to beat both of them. But you do have to beat one of them. And I think there's a world in which Penn State beats Oregon and then loses to Ohio State and then avenges somebody, or maybe nobody, because maybe Ohio State has weird tiebreaker things where they don't even make the Big Ten championship, and Penn State's at least back in Indianapolis. Because, I don't know if there's frankly, I don't know if there's anyone in the country outside of maybe Clemson, that I can just see very easily running the table. And even Clemson starts their season with LSU and ends it with South Carolina. So their non-conference alone, I've got them running the table in the ACC. But in terms of 12-0, I don't know if there's a team out there. Certainly, I don't think it's going to happen in the Big 12. That's going to be just a meat grinder all season, which is awesome. We love that. I don't think it's going to happen in the SEC because, I mean, I don't think Texas runs the table. I mean,
there's not a big enough talent gap between any of those schools.
Yep, which is fun. I do like that a lot.
This is ideal.
Yeah. Yep. I do like that a lot. Does Ohio State beat Michigan this year?
Yes. Yes. I mean, what do you want me to say?
Yeah, I know.
What do you want me to say? But also, yes.
I do.
It will happen this year. I actually do think they will beat them this year, but I do not think they win the conference.
Agreed.
But I think they're in the playoffs, certainly. I mean, I think that basically goes without saying. If Ohio State beats Michigan this year, they're probably in the playoff. Like, I think that probably is an equivalent. Like, if they win that game, you're assuming they're, Ohio State maybe loses to, like, what are the only teams for sure better than Michigan on Ohio State's schedule? And that would be Texas and Penn State.
Maybe
so 10-2 Ohio State, maybe Illinois, and we don't even know that 100% for sure.
Right.
So, like, a 10-2 Ohio State team is pretty much always in the playoff in my estimation.
Yeah. I agree with you. If you are not a Buckeye fan, let me give you some insight into how we are feeling about this game 4 months out. If you told me that Ohio State would go 1-11, but their one win would be over Michigan, I'd shake your hand with a smile and say, thank you, sir, I'll take it. And I think a lot of Buckeye fans would do the same. Mind you, let me tell you what 1-11 means. Ohio State loses to an in-state opponent for the first time since like our great-great-grandparents were alive. Because Ohio comes to
kind of better to beat Michigan after losing a game like that.
That would be
some ways.
Hilarious.
In some weird, ironic way. Sorry.
No, you're right. So the Ohio Bobcats would have defeated the Ohio State Buckeyes, and my love of Maction honestly really does love that. Grambling State would have beat Ohio State, an FCS opponent.
I don't know about that
would be a bigger upset than App State.
Oh yeah, not even close.
Actually, it'd be the biggest upset of all time in college football. So that's what I'm willing to sacrifice. We lose every single game. We give James Franklin the satisfaction of beating Ohio State. And even the satisfaction of their fans thinking that this game is a rivalry game, which it is not, as we only have one. There'd be all sorts of, but give me 1-11. I don't care.
We just want that one. Yep. It's not even about repeating as national titles. Nope. We want to beat Michigan and ideally get the conference back. But really, like, I think the expectations this year are not really, let's win the national title. Yeah. It's like, well, we'll probably be in the playoff again. So can we just beat Michigan on the way? Like, and then if we fall to Texas or Penn State along the way, or maybe even, I mean, heaven forbid, I don't want to lose our lovely wooden turtle, but lose to Illinois in the Illibut game. But yes, that is, but I will say this. Not that anybody is. I actually would not take Ohio State lightly at all, because this is a team that's going to get a million times better in between that Texas and Michigan game, because it will be an extraordinarily young team. Like, one of the leaders on the team are like Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Smith. Okay, like they're not like we're not senior laden. Yeah. This is a very young team. Even the returners are young. So this is one of those teams that to not overreact to a week 1 game. And that's not saying I think they're going to lose to Texas, but even if they do, that is not a moment to sell Ohio State stock. They're going to get way, way better as the season goes on, and once again could be quite dangerous by the time they get to the playoff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to get this ugly. But remember week 1 last year, Georgia just beat the brakes off of Clemson. And Clemson came back, and eventually now, if Ohio State turns in the kind of season that Clemson did last year in the regular season, you wouldn't love that as a Buckeye fan. But Clemson came back and won the ACC title and gave Texas all they could handle in the playoffs. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's our Big Ten preview. So just as a recap, Johnny and I agree on everything again somehow. Someday we won't. But we both got Penn State winning the Big Ten. We think they can overcome themselves. Josh is repping the Buckeyes. He's got Ohio State winning. We both have Nebraska as our dark horse. I'll throw USC in the ring as my pick too. I think they can go 9-3. And Josh said Penn State, which we are not allowing a dark horse, so we may ask him next week what his dark horse team is. But
we'll give him Illinois.
Yeah, we'll give him Illinois because we have talked about that in the past. So that's that. Here are some picks. And I still don't have the picks loaded, so we'll just roll right into it. All right, it is picks of the week, and we have a scoreboard to update. It is season 4 picks of the week. We actually don't have a trophy yet. We'll have to remedy that situation.
That's why I'm losing, Aaron. It's not food
Nothing
related.
to play for. Yeah,
I need food.
Yeah,
food on the line apparently.
So I had a thought that will not apply to this season, but might apply to like season 12. So here's the deal. We need this show to just take off because we would like to make a lot of money, I guess. I don't know. But if we're making a lot of money on this show, I think it would be hilarious I actually think this would be better for the loser. The loser has to become the sponsor of a bowl game. So they have they have to front the costs, which is not as expensive as you would think. Now, mind you, it is far outside our budgets combined, put together, but it's not as outrageous as you would think. So if this show just goes insanely wild, we're viral, we're popular, we've got ad reads every other second, the loser would have to sponsor a bowl game where? In Birmingham, Alabama, right next to the Waffle House.
No, I thought you were going to say the Bahamas Bowl.
Well, that's fine too. Maybe the winner gets to host a bowl game there in the Bahamas.
Yeah, that's true. That's too good of a prize.
Yeah.
Birmingham is a punishment.
Or Galveston, just for Josh.
No, there's no bowl in Well, there isn't yet.
Yeah.
We're moving that Frisco Bowl down to Galveston.
But I got to say, the Johnny Gaunt Galveston Bowl really just kind of flows off the tongue.
Ooh. What's the logo going to be? Just brown water? Like
it's up to you. If you lose, you're the one designing all of it. Like, yep.
No, but that's got to be part of it. You have to design the logo yourself. Like you have to draw it.
Yep. I think so.
Since I don't know how to use editing tools like that, I will literally draw them.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, that doesn't help season 4 because we're not doing that for season 4. I don't know what we're going to do. We'll figure it out. Last week, we picked the Chicago versus Chicago series, the Cubs versus the White Sox. And the White Sox actually beat the Cubs pretty bad in game 1. And then the Cubs came back and won games 2 and 3. I did, in fact, predict that the Cubs would win the series, but by 2-1. Josh was close, though. Josh did say he went with the upset, White Sox over the Cubs. It almost happened, but I get the point there. So right now our scoreboard reads myself with 3 points, Josh with 2. Johnny, you've got 1. And this week we are picking some actual on the field, happening in real life NFL football. It's the Hall of Fame game on Thursday night from Canton, Ohio. And we've got the Detroit Lions backups versus the Los Angeles Chargers backups. Actually, make that their backups versus the Chargers backups. So I'm a Lions fan. I've got my Lions shirt on right now. I would like us to save our wins for the regular season. So I hope our third string guys look great. I hope they do well. I'm going to pick the Chargers just so I'm happy either way. So I've got the LA Chargers winning this game on Thursday. And Josh has picked the Detroit Lions. Johnny, what's your tie-breaking vote here?
I also have the Chargers because Jim Harbaugh's a weirdo and will actually care about winning this game.
That's such a good reasoning.
That is literally the reasoning.
Yeah.
There's no reasoning in it. It's a preseason game. Like, that's the best reasoning you're going to get. That's my analysis.
Yeah.
Chargers. Jim Harbaugh's a weirdo.
That's true. I mean, I would
say
say
had machine guns, birds wouldn't be afraid of them.
Yep. That's so true. Future editing Aaron needs to put that on the soundboard. Dan Campbell's also weird, but not that weird. So those are your picks. Do you have a preference on who starts? I'm not following what's in the show notes, but.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
All right.
You go first.
Johnny, in all of your travels, did you ever, which you've been all over the place, multiple continents, or the plural contini, multiple states. Have you ever encountered, either in person or an area in which they could live, a Burmese python?
I've been to Florida, so yeah.
Okay. Well, that's where this story takes us. We are in Tampa, Florida. Now, my mind when you say Tampa, Florida is, oh man, I can't wait for that Thursday week 1 college football game between South Florida hosting Boise State at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. But that's easy for me to say in Ohio, where not everything tries to kill me. In Tampa, they've got some bigger issues. The Burmese pythons have become one of Florida's most destructive invasive species, according to Fox 13 News. And they are apparently just devastating native wildlife in the Everglades. We don't love that. Johnny, I know you are a strict critic of AI.
Yes, it's the worst.
But what if I told you that scientists have figured out a way to build a robotic rabbit and put AI into the robot and have the bunny, which would normally be prey for, or would be food for a python, it's robotic and it can help trap a python. That's
why are we trapping them?
Well, I think because they're invading everything.
No, we should just kill them.
Well, they might be doing that too.
There's too many of them.
It's
Why do
unclear
we
if
trap them?
Well, I'm assuming it's trapped to then be killed. It's unclear to me if the robots are advanced enough that they are enacting lethal force.
I would say interesting. My preference would be what we did many years ago and just pay the rednecks $10 a head to go down with their machetes and shotguns and go hunting for the Burmese pythons. It is a serious issue, though. Apparently, they've caught them eating deer, attacking Florida panthers, which are super endangered. Like, they're horrible. So I guess our call to action is to not get snakes as pets. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea.
That's true. That's probably how this started.
Oh, it's definitely how it started. Like, people illegally had them as pets, and they're like, whoa, they actually got big, and just release them outside.
Yeah.
You dummies.
So this is
and
crazy.
Nothing eats them.
I got Stats and Info did some overtime for us on this particular topic. Now, did they talk about the Big Ten at all in their research this week? No. So questionable priorities here. But apparently since, I think, 2000, the raccoon population drop is 99%. And if you're, which is sad because yes, Trash Panda is cute, but also I'm pretty sure raccoons also eat a bunch of stuff that is also good that it's gone. Possums are the same way. They're down 98%. Bobcats, which very similar, down 87%. And I did get confirmation the robots are not killing the pythons. They are basically using a camera system powered by AI that can detect nearby pythons. And when a snake is spotted, the system will send out an alert for a wildlife official to come and capture it.
No, against, anti. Now I'm not even for the robot at all. There's too many of them.
Yeah.
This is why we have deer season in the Midwest. And we limit the number we can kill, but the deer aren't invasive.
Right.
So the pythons shouldn't be here in the first place. So we should just wipe them out to begin with. But I get it. They're snakes. That's basically impossible.
Right.
Because the Everglades are a swamp. How are you going to do that? Also, like, how's that bunny going to stay with it the whole time? Maybe even if the bunny does stay with it. Do you know how big these pythons get sometimes? These things are huge. They swallow deer. Like, what's a wildlife official going to do with that thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to swallow the robot too, right? Like, there's nothing preventing it that I can
let the
tell.
robot defend itself,
right?
At least. I hate AI too, but
see,
at least
but here's the thing, Johnny. You're
chance.
riding the fence here because on one hand, you want this robot to be able to kill a python, but on the other hand, you're deadly afraid of AI taking over the world. And if you introduce like just blades on this bunny's arms that he can just unleash and just stab a python, what happens when the AI takes over and says, "Oh, that human child, that's definitely a python."
This is why we want the rednecks to do it instead.
There you go. Yep.
It's much better. They were happy to do it.
Yeah.
Up the amount. $20 a head.
Yeah.
Go kill them all.
All I know is Mechanical Bunny. New band name, I call it. That's what I've got.
I feel like that one might be a band already.
Yeah, it's possible. I'll look it up. I'll have Stats and Info look that up.
All right. Speaking of technology and integration, I saw one of the worst ideas that I've ever seen in my entire life, which is saying something, because in the last few years...
And saying someone who wants to invent Bluetooth charging.
Bluetooth charging is a great idea. Your phone would never have to like be put on anything to even charge. It would just always be charging. This is a great idea. All right. Anyway, Mercedes-Benz is the first car company to come to an agreement with Microsoft to integrate Microsoft Teams into their vehicles. You know, when you have the display, you have the CarPlay. Obviously, when it's a luxury vehicle, they're nice big screens usually. I mean, isn't that wonderful, Aaron?
I hate it.
I mean, you'll have a video camera in your car.
Yeah.
Like, you can respond on Teams.
You can circle back with people.
Oh, man. Yeah.
You can put a pin on that if you need to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, there won't be any accidents because people have been double muted and had no idea how to be unmuted. I'm not speaking from experience at all. I hate Microsoft Teams with all of my being. And this is just a terrible... Who wants this? Right. Who asked for this? Like Mercedes. Like I actually
some middle level manager at some corporate thing is just so excited.
Right. Because the people on LinkedIn are excited. That they're the ones excited. If you're on LinkedIn, like you probably are excited for this.
I hope that the listeners of this show and like the Venn diagram of LinkedIn users and the listeners of this show are two separate circles.
Yes. Yes. I hope it looks like glasses.
Yeah.
It should be glasses. I almost don't blame Microsoft here though, because you're trying to sell your product. What is Mercedes doing? Who wants this? Being in your car was always an excuse. Like, oh, sorry, I have bad connection. Or at the very least, there's no video camera. Like, you're basically calling in. Like, that's fine. That's whatever. I hate that too, but that's fine. You can't get rid of that. Who asked for this? So, straight to jail, Mercedes-Benz and the creator of Microsoft Teams. You are both in jail. Mercedes-Benz, you may seek parole. Inventor of Microsoft Teams may not. No parole.
Yeah.
Jail.
Yep.
For life. And an evolving story, which we will probably touch on more next week. If you play a professional sport, you probably shouldn't gamble on yourself, which is potentially the allegation for many in Major League Baseball right now. I won't even get into a ton of names, but Emmanuel Clase, closer for Cleveland Guardians, was basically suspended while he's under league review. And the video footage is pretty clear that those first pitches were a little out of hand.
A wee bit outside.
Yes. And if you're not aware, you can bet down to the pitch if you really, really want to. So you will be caught. The apps
that's my
are
thing. I just
working
don't
with the
understand
leagues,
how
man.
do people think they're going to get away with this?
The apps have every incentive to turn in players. And they're monitoring for weird, suspicious gambling habits, like a wild increase in Emmanuel Clase's first pitch of the game bets. Like if you put $5K down on that, 5 starts in a row, they're going to flag it and be like, who is this user? Like the gambling sites want to keep their partnerships with the league. So they're going to turn you in. Yep. There's no reason for them not to turn you in. Also because you're robbing them of their profits if you're throwing it. Pun not intended. So just please stop for the good of the game and for yourself. Like, there's been players who've gotten in trouble for gambling on another sport. You can talk about whether that's right or wrong, but gambling on your own sport that you're playing and on probably on yourself, that's insane. It messes with the integrity of the game. I think every single fan is on board with this as well. You can't gamble in your own league, on your own team, on yourself. All three of those wrong, triple wrong. That's jail for Emmanuel Clase.
3 wrongs equals jail.
To be correct. So I'm just interested to see, because this, and maybe it's becoming more of a thing in Major League Baseball because it's a longer season. And so maybe they think they can just get away with it more. I'm interested to see if league punishment, as this keeps kind of coming, and it's not just baseball, it's just we're in baseball season right now. If punishment, the NFL was extremely severe with their punishments, I felt, including an entire season suspension.
Yep.
I'm interested to see if those suspensions even go up higher, especially if they find that it's gambling on your own play specifically, which you have full control of. So I'll just be interested to see how Major League Baseball handles this and other leagues handle it going forward. If they find a habitual and consistent gambling, especially on your own team and yourself, I wouldn't be shocked to see a Pete Rose type of suspension at some point to send the message that it won't be tolerated. And I wouldn't be surprised if the fines and the suspensions are significantly increased, because it doesn't seem, for some reason, it doesn't seem like the players are getting the message right now.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah. I don't know how. I don't know how, but they're not.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Action statement. AI bad. This is an anti-Burmese Python podcast. And ban Microsoft Teams. There you go.
I love that. My action statement is, when can I come over and play darts? Because that looks like a lot of fun. And also, how many times have you hit the wall?
0.
Oh, wow. Well, then allow me to be the first.
I just put it up yesterday.
Okay.
So, you know.
I love
just
that.
put it up yesterday. I almost put it on the other wall, just above the TV, and thought better of that. Thought better of that. So, you know, the brain works occasionally.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. All right. Well, Johnny, this has been fun. Love the Big Ten. Excited for it next week. We're trying to figure out our episode for next week. I will be out of town, so we're all taking turns dying. But if you're saying, wow, these guys can't ever get in the same room and record a podcast, I would say shame on you, because we're taking our vacations now when normal people should. So then when the fall comes around, we are watching 12 games at once. So that's what I have to say to our non-existent haters that are mad that we're not all together. We will be at some point, and possibly the next time we record. So until then, listeners, viewers, everyone, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Fifth and Goal podcast. Hey, just as a reminder, you can follow us on social media, especially as the college football season ramps up. That tends to be when our social media usage ramps up too. So listen to the rantings of a lunatic, not just in your ears from this podcast, but also with your eyes on Twitter. You can follow us at Fifth Goal Sports over there. Yeah, that's it for myself, for Johnny. We will talk to you all next week. Have a good one.